This time last year, I discovered some lost media whose existence had hardly been documented, much less remembered by anyone online. Especially surprising for the fact that this event was hosted by Nintendo and connected to the Super Smash Bros. Series of games. For anyone not familiar with this topic, let me introduce you to Slamfest, a live-action battle featuring costumed Nintendo characters duking it out inside a boxing ring. The event was held at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas back in 1999, and believe it or not, was live-streamed over the internet. But as you can imagine, this is where the story gets interesting. Live streaming and documentation of real-world events like this wasn't that great back in the day, so very few details and information have resurfaced since. While some websites were archived and photos saved, the real meat of this mystery is the fact that not even a single second of video footage has been saved, making the recording of this entire event completely lost. Since I'm a Smash Bros. And Lost Media fan, I had to take it upon myself to uncover any video content I could, possibly even the whole show. In the last video, I made contact with a former Nintendo event producer who I believed would have some knowledge of this event, though hadn't yet replied to my message at the time of the video. However, they did get back to me and allowed the search to continue, which is where the story picks up. So, once having replied to me, the event coordinator was really nice and remembered the existence of Slamfest quite well. Unfortunately, she wasn't someone who actually worked on the event as it fell under PR, and didn't have any specific information about it. Though she was able to give me the names of 2 former Nintendo employees that did have a direct hand in running the event. I really thought I had struck gold in this latest discovery, so no time was wasted in sending messages to both former employees. I chose what I considered to be their most active social media platforms and waited a few weeks for their reply, which unfortunately never came. Thinking I had picked the wrong platforms to message them on, I decided to find secondary accounts and try sending them another message through there. Even more time had passed by without hearing anything back, and I began to wonder if they had simply not seen my messages in the first place. So I kindly went back to the event coordinator and asked if she had any active communication to them to direct their attention to my messages. She informed me she would give it a shot, and shortly after that I heard back from the first PR employee. This former employee was also really helpful and remembered Slamfest without question, just like the event manager had. However, she also didn't have any content from the event, but did supply me with another lead. This person was a friend of hers who she's kept in touch with, a filmmaker involved with video game movies and related content. Once again, I quickly found the guy's contact info and sent him a message, only to get an equally quick reply back. He informs me he doesn't have any Slamfest content and doesn't even know what it is, before proceeding to forward the message to his colleagues, who unfortunately have also never heard of it. I wanted to go back to this PR employee and inform her that her filmmaker friend doesn't have any video of it. But before I did that, I discovered that this PR employee, and the second one whose name was given to me through that event manager, are actually connected through a shared business. So when I went back to state that the filmmaker doesn't have any content from Slamfest, I mentioned the second PR employee who never messaged me back for months ago. She told me they were indeed business partners and would send my message to her along. But unfortunately, I never heard back from either PR employee after that, ending the lead completely. This was pretty disappointing, as it essentially ended the trail made by the original event manager I had contacted at the end of the last video, so I had to think about new places to take the search. And then it hit me. Back in one of the oldest Twitter threads, there was discussion about trying to contact Stephen L. Kent, the author of a book in which an image of Donkey Kong from Slamfest appears. He was supposed to be contacted last year at some point, but the person who claimed they were going to apparently never did, so I decided this was my next step. Again, I wasted no time in finding Steven's contact info, and again, he was a really nice and helpful person. Steven, being a video game historian, actually attended the event back in the day along with reporters from other video game magazines. They had Smash Bros. Demo booths set up where everyone could sample the game, though most people could outplay Steven as they had imported the game from Japan prior to the event. When it comes to video content, however, he didn't have anything, which was a bit surprising to me. It was in this moment when he revealed to me that Nintendo themselves were terrible at keeping records of their own material back in those days, recollecting a time when a PR guy from Nintendo's agency gave Steven a box filled with old news coverage and events. And since he now had all these videos in his possession, when Nintendo needed some of their own content, they would ask Steven to borrow their own tapes. Nintendo didn't even have any backup copies themselves. When our conversation came to a close, I asked him if he knew anyone from his years documenting video game content who might have some video of Slamfest in their archives. What I received was way more than I was expecting, with several names on both the gaming journalist side and Nintendo side of things. I pretty much made a big list of all these people and went down one by one, messaging them with the story of how Slamfest became lost over the years. But unfortunately, this is where things started to go downhill. There were many people on both sides of my contact list who I either couldn't find or who I contacted but never heard back from, which made things especially frustrating when you could see they read the message but chose not to reply to it. However, there were still a few very interesting interactions I had, despite the dead ends. There were two people on the list, one from the Nintendo side and one from the game journalist side, who both replied to my message about Slamfest only a couple days apart from each other. And this set the tone for the rest of the search. Upon describing Slamfest and the search I had been going on for 8 months at this point, they both surprisingly informed me that they have nothing from the event, and in a strange twist of fate, suggest I reach out to Stephen L. Kent given his status as a video game historian. Funny enough, I tell them the only reason I was able to find them was because of Stephen, so that wouldn't do any good. But it doesn't end there. The final person they suggested I get in touch with was the original PR employee who the event manager name dropped back months ago when I had first set out in making contacts right at the beginning of the search. I realized at this point I was walking myself in circles. Essentially, the issue that becomes apparent in this case is the fact that all of these gaming industry people from the late 90s were aware of or knew of each other because they're all from the same pool. This means none of them would have any content from Slamfest. That much is very clear to me. I tried to distance myself from this inner circle and branch out to MGM employees or other areas of event production, but the most success I had was finding a camera operator for MGM events back in the 90s who never replied to me. This largely ended my time searching for Slamfest, and it's been on the back burner ever since the beginning of this year. Figuring out that I had been walking myself in circles really threw me for a loop, and I just wasn't sure where else to take the search from there. Thankfully, there seems to be a lot of continued interest in getting this found, and it's for that reason the topic has been selected to be featured as an on the hunt search within the Lost Media Wiki Discord server. If you'd like to participate in this search, drop by the dedicated channel and contribute. To me, even just getting a few seconds of video would be considered a victory at this point, since it's not even known if a full recording of the broadcast exists at all. This was such a long time ago, and the fact that this whole event flew under the radar for decades tells a lot about its documentation, though stranger things have happened in the Lost Media community before. Until video content from Slamfest 99 can be saved in some capacity, it'll definitely remain a mystery. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Be sure to check out some of my other game-related Lost Media videos. Thanks for watching, and until next time, Finn.